Hey guys, I want to post a video today that's I feel is of critical importance. I want you to ask yourself a question. When you're training for a marathon, or when you're training for a half marathon, or let's say a 5K, and you give yourself a certain block of training, let's say 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever it is, how often do you feel you should be racing leading up to that race? Okay, that's a question that I feel is very important to ask, particularly when you start approaching the longer races. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over how often, based on about 2 decades of experience as a competitor and a coach, what I think is an ideal range or amount of races per event, and I'm going to go from 800 meters all the way up to the marathon. So I encourage you to watch this entire video, not just the first minute, because you're going to get a lot of good content. Before I go any further, I'll be posting about 2 videos a week moving forward, and I already have about 24 videos on my channel, so click the subscribe button, and then click the bell next to the subscribe button so that you'll know anytime a new video comes out. I do have detailed training programs already for 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon, broken down by the day, by the week, with specific time goals. I have videos on how to set your appropriate training paces. I have videos on flexibility and injury prevention, and I've got videos on a 1 mile time trial and what it tells you about races that are near it, 3K, 5K, 800, and 400, and a half marathon race or a fitness indicator, what it tells you for the marathon and 10K. So a lot of good content. I encourage you to watch the videos, and I encourage you to watch all of the video if you're going to watch one, not just the first few minutes, because there's valuable content throughout the whole video, and I don't want you to miss anything. Okay? So with that said, let's get to this. 800 meters. I broke it down into a couple of different ways. Your winter and spring, your winter/indoor, and your out and your spring/outdoor, and then eventually the roads as the races get longer. The reason why I have the 2 seasons broken down here is because winter/indoor is about 15 to 16 weeks. Outdoor spring season is about 10 to 12 weeks. So structurally is a little bit different. Okay. So for 800 meters, let's say that's your focus race. That's what you want to really hone in on. So for winter, I recommend 7 to 9 races. Okay, one of which will be longer. So a 1,000 meter or a 1,200 meter leg on a DMR or a mile leg on a DMR. A shorter race as well, maybe 400 meters or 500 meters or 600 meters. 2 relay legs of 400 meters, so you're either part of a 4x4 or a sprint relay or a DMR running a 400 meter leg, and then you're part of another relay running an 800 meter leg, and then 3 to 4 of your actual focus races of the 800 meters. The reason why I have this variety, what the longer race tells you is where your strength is at. What the shorter race tells you is where your speed is at. And if you happen to be closer to the longer race than you are the shorter race, based on your 800 meter, then that's a sign that you might need a little bit more speed development. If you happen to be closer to the shorter race than you are the longer race, that's a sign you may need to make some tweaks to your aerobic training, your long runs, your threshold training, VO2 max. So that's why the 1 mile time trial video is really, really handy for things like this. Okay. Plus, with relay legs, you never really know where you're going to get the baton if you're not the leadoff leg. If you get the baton way ahead or a little bit back and you're not running with anybody, it gives you an opportunity to run hard without having anybody around you. So you really have to focus. Okay, and that can come into play with, let's say later on you have to run a qualifying time to get to a bigger event or a championship or a huge invite. And you might be so far ahead or behind somebody who's so far ahead and you're going to run a portion of the race by yourself. It's important to have experience running hard by yourself and trying to and remaining focused, because it'll come in handy later on. And you never know when it's going to come in handy, but it does come in handy. Okay? Spring outdoor, 5 to 7 races is my recommendation. 2 of which are longer, so the mile or 1,200 leg or the mile leg of a DMR. 1 shorter race, so maybe a 400 meter relay leg or an open 400. 1 relay in which you're running an 800 meter leg, and then 2 to 3 of your focus 800 meter races. Again, modify as you see fit. In some situations you might need more racing. Some situations you might need less racing. It really depends on yourself and the athletes that you're working with. You could be part of a school or a county or a division that requires more racing, in which case you make adjustments in that way. But if you have the flexibility to kind of race a little bit less frequently, then you can dedicate more time to certain good blocks of training. Okay. All right. So let's move up to the 1,500/1,600/mile. Winter indoor, 6 to 8 races, my recommendation. One of which is longer, so a 3K or a 3,200 or a 2 mile. Again, telling you where your strength is at. 2 to 3 shorter races, like 1,000 meters or a 1,200 meter relay leg or an 800 meter relay leg. I like those, particularly the 1,000 and the 1,200, because since they're closer to the mile, it gives you a good idea of how close you are or how far you are off from kind of where you want to be. Okay. 3 to 4 of your focus races of 1,500, 1,600, a mile. So, and you space them out however you want to space them out. Sometimes you run one early and then you wait a couple weeks and then you run them again. But this gives you the opportunity to kind of break down a season and race every 2 weeks or 3 weeks if you want to do that, instead of having to race every week. Because remember too that you have about a 6 to 8 week window where you're at your prime racing fitness. And you want that 6 to 8 weeks to be at the end of the season, not necessarily in the middle of the season or the beginning of the season. I understand that you might have to qualify for certain races early on, in which case you could kind of plan to extend your cross-country season for a couple of weeks if you're high school or college. Get that qualifier early, then take some downtime, and then build back up. You could do that as well. That's an option. But planning, giving yourself some flexibility to do things like this will definitely come in handy. All right? Spring outdoor. 5 to 6 races is my recommendation. One of which is longer, again, 3K or 3,200 or 2 mile. 2 shorter races, so a 1,200 meter relay leg or an 800 meter relay leg or an open 800 meter race, whatever you see fit. And then 3 of your focus races, 1,500, 1,600/mile. Whatever the qualifiers are, whatever the championships or whatever's available, obviously, as well. All right, so that's up to the mile. Let's take this down and let's get a little bit longer now. Okay. Now we're going to go 3K, 3,200 meters, 2 mile. Okay, so high school, college mostly. Winter indoor, my recommendation is 6 to 8 races. All right. One is longer, which is a 5,000 meter race. It's generally more applicable to college level, but there are road races available or 5K time trials and whatever you think is appropriate. But I do think it's a good idea because it still gives you an indication of where the aerobic strength is at. Okay, and then 3 to 4 shorter races. So 2 races of either 1,500, 1,600 a mile, an 800 meter relay leg on a relay, and then either a relay where you run the mile or the 1,200 meters. And then 2 to 3 of your focus races, the 3K, 3,200, or 2 miles. Generally, you'd run one early, and you qualify, and then you run one later on during championship season. If you run fast or perform well, then you get another one. And in some cases, it could lead to a 5,000 meter race, like at high school nationals or collegiate nationals and so on. Particularly high school nationals, if you have enough 2 mile time, then you can qualify for the 5,000 meter. Spring outdoor, 5 to 6 races. Okay, 2 to 3 of which are shorter, 1,500, 1,600 a mile, and then a 1,200 meter relay leg, whichever one you want to combine. 2 to 3 of your focus races, 3K, 3,200 or 2 mile runs, and then with the possibility again of a 5,000 meter race at the end of the season, depending on how well you perform. If not, if you don't qualify for anything else, you can always kind of shut down early, rest early, and have a longer build up towards your next season. Okay, let's move up to the 5K. Now you have 3 options: winter indoor, so 6 to 7 races is my recommend. 2 to 3, 2 times 3K or 2 mile runs. Okay, this is more applicable to college now. And 2 to 3 races of 1,500/mile. And then 2 of your focus 5,000 meter races. Generally, you run one early at some point, get a qualifier, and run another one later on. Or you may have to run one later on if you didn't get a qualifier or didn't run one early to qualify for something later on. Or you just you might want to use it as a springboard for an outdoor 5K or an outdoor 10K. Okay. Now, spring outdoor, 5 to 6 races, one of which is a 10K. Okay. 5K and 10K are kind of interchangeable. You can transition from one to the next relatively easy. There's some modifications in workouts and stuff, but the training is somewhat similar. And if you run a good 5K, you should be able to move up to a 10K, and vice versa. If you run a good 10K, you should be able to move down to a 5K. Okay. 1 or 2 of the races of 3K. Okay, and then 1 or 2 by 1,500/mile races. So you're addressing kind of the speed development and the just sub 5K races, and then 2 obviously 5K races. So again, this gives you opportunity to run against aerobic monsters and run against kickers. And you never know. The people who you run in the 10K, some of them could be in the 5K. The people who you run against the mile could be in the 5K as well. So it gives you a chance to see who you're running against and kind of learn about your competition as well. All right? Now the road is the other option. Okay, I recommend one 10K race or a 10-mile race, whichever is available. Okay, one race of a 1-mile race if that's available, or a 1-mile time trial on the track, which will give you a really good indicator of kind of where you're headed for 5K if you're doing the training. And then 3 5K races. Okay, let's move up to the 10K. We get rid of the winter indoor because there's no 10K indoors. So you got your spring outdoor. So I recommend 2 5,000 meter races. Okay, 2 by 1,500/mile races, and then 2 by 10K. Generally, you get your one early, you get your qualifier, and then you run a big one later on. And again, keep in mind with that 6 to 8 week window, relaying fitness over from either cross country to indoor, or from indoor to outdoor, can put you in a good position to run fast and get that qualifier early and take a breather, and then kind of build up. I know it's harder. It's easier to take a breather when you're going from cross to indoor because it's a longer season than it is from indoor to outdoor because it's a shorter season, but those are things that you plan accordingly as well. Generally, you may have an opportunity to run a 10K only 1 to 2 weeks out from your last indoor race, so if you can hold on for another week or two training, you might be in a position to get a qualifier. All right? Yeah, and then the road, I recommend a half marathon race or a 10-mile race. And then 2 to 3 by 5K races, and obviously your 1 to 2 10K races. About 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 races, but then this could be a little bit of a longer season as well. You have more flexibility if you're on the road. It's okay to pick kind of random races along the way, but if you really have a goal and you want to say, I want to break 1:30 for the half marathon, or I want to break 30 minutes for the 10K, it is a good idea to kind of structure training backwards accordingly and plan races so that you could put in blocks of training that tell you how you're progressing. Choosing races at random is okay, but if you happen to have a bit of a structured plan, you'll be in a good spot to run well. Okay, provided you stay healthy, of course. Now let's go to cross country. High school boys and high school girls run 5K. Collegiate women run 5K and 6K. All right. My recommendation for either is 5 to 6 races. For high school boys or high school girls, it gives you an opportunity to run maybe every 2 weeks. And then 6K for collegiate women. Once you approach regionals and nationals, those races are both 6K, and that's all divisions, 1, 2, and 3. There might be a 5K and maybe a 6K race during the season, but there are some 5K races as well or early season. But I recommend this 5 to 6 races. As the races get longer, you kind of run them a little bit less frequently. They just take longer to recover from than an 800-meter or a mile race. Okay, 10K or 8K, that's collegiate men. My recommend is 4 to 5 races. Okay, maximum. All right, Division 1 and 2. Once you get to regionals and nationals, it's 10K. Division 3, it's 8K. All the way through. And again, if you want to focus on a 10K and run some 8Ks along the way, if you happen to be a post-collegiate or just yourself as a coach, I still recommend 4 to 5 races. And there may not be a ton of 8Ks available, but if you can find an 8K and a 5K or something like that, definitely plug in races. I would encourage you to plug in the races accordingly and kind of cap it at 4 to 5 weeks if your training program is 16 weeks and under. Okay. All right, so let's go to the last one now, which is a popular one, half marathon and marathon. Now, using the same logic, too, as the races get longer, they take longer to recover from. So, particularly with the half marathon and marathon, it's very important to kind of have a good structured training program, if you can, as well as having races plugged in ahead of time. The reason why is because if you have an off day in a half marathon or marathon, it's not like you can come back the following week like a 5K or a 3K or a mile. These things take much longer to recover from. You train a lot to, just to be beyond the money this one day. So you want to make sure that everything leading up to that is as precise as possible. So you have less flexibility here. So it's important to kind of nail the sleep and the workouts and be consistent with your training. Okay, so for the half marathon, I recommend 2 races prior to the half marathon. Half marathon being the 3rd race. Either a 5K, 10K, or 10-mile, a combination of those, 2 of those 3. And then, based on your schedule and your availability. Remember, keep in mind that 6 to 8 week 6 to 8 week window. Okay, you could have one outside the window, which could be just tells you where your fitness is at, but your most important fitness indicator should be within that window before this race. Okay? It'll tell you, okay, what do I need to do for these next couple weeks to put the icing on the cake to achieve the goal that I want to hit. Okay, the same thing applies to the marathon. My recommendation for the marathon is only 1 to 2 races. That's it. One of which is always going to be a half marathon. If there's no half marathon available, then I recommend a 13 to 15 mile marathon simulation run. It'll tell you where your marathon fitness is. That I recommend to be about 5 to 7 weeks out, which is also when I recommend the half marathon be. 5 to 7 weeks out. And if you want to run something else like a 10K or a 10 mile, a couple weeks before that, 4 weeks before that, 5 weeks before that, that's fine. I generally recommend 12 weeks for the training for the half marathon and 16 weeks training for the marathon based on your experience. And as you get more experience and fitter, then you can bump this up to 16 weeks and give you more time. But I always recommend 16 weeks for the marathon. And the reason why, you can do it in less time, and I've got programs that allow to do that, but you're building up a bigger aerobic base that allows you to kind of recover better from this and allows you to transition a little bit easier into something else if you want to step it down or run a half marathon several months after that. Those extra 4 weeks can give you a little bit of extra aerobic padding. So it helps on the back end too, not only the front end and the back end. And then the same thing applies for half marathon and even training for 5Ks. I recommend nice long build-ups so that you can recover well afterward and then race not too long after for the short races. So that's my recommendation for this. Again, 1 to 2 races, and then obviously a go time for the marathon. So I hope this video was helpful. If you like this video, please click the like button. Please click the subscribe button if you want to have access to all my other videos. I think you'd find them very enjoyable and very informative and very helpful. I also post running content on my Instagram page. It's Black Belt Running Coach. And my direct email, if you want direct access to me for coaching services or anything like that, my direct email is blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com. I would be more than happy to help out. I respond to Instagram messages. I respond to emails. I respond to YouTube comments as well in a prompt manner. So let me know what you think. Good luck this season, and I'll talk to you next time.